So what do we do with him now? We take him to the doctor in the village. How? We lay him on his back on this strip of limbu. She indicated the canvas strip wrapped around the spar. And you and I pull him. She turned to regard her grandchildren sternly. The boys will help us, of course. In his head, the man was screaming, but his vocal cords were so parched and cracked and ravaged by smoke and flame that the only sound that emerged was a reedy, tremulous wheezing, as pitiful as the air escaping from a pair of broken bellows. There had been a time, barely a month or two ago, when he had set his face to the storm and grinned with savage glee as the wind and sea spray hurled themselves against his weather-beaten countenance. Yet now the warm, jasmine-scented breeze that barely wafted into the room through the open windows felt to him like thorns being dragged across the pitiful tatters of his skin. He was consumed by pain, scourged by it, and though the doctor, lifting the bandages from his face, was doing his best to work with the most consummate delicacy, each additional inch of exposure stabbed him with another needle-sharp stiletto of pure, concentrated agony. And with every infliction came a new, unwanted memory of battle. The searing heat and brightness of the flame, the deafening roar of gunfire and burning wood, the crushing impact of timber against his bones. I am sorry, but there is nothing else to be done, the doctor murmured, though the man to whom he spoke did not understand much Arabic. The doctor's beard was thin and silvery, and there were deeply lined, sallow pouches beneath his eyes. He had practiced his craft for the best part of 50 years, and acquired an air of wisdom and venerability that calmed and reassured most of the patients in his care. But this man was different. His injuries were so severe that he should not be alive at all, let alone sitting virtually upright in bed. His one arm had been amputated, only Allah the Merciful knew how. His rib cage on that same side of his body resembled the side of a barrel that had been stove in by a battle-axe. Much of his skin was still scorched and blistered, and the scent of the flowers that grew in such profusion beneath the open window was lost in the roast pork odour of burned flesh and the sickening stench of pus and putrefaction that his body now exuded. The fire had claimed his extremities. 2 of the fingers on his remaining hand had been reduced to stumps of blackened bone that the doctor had also sawn off, along with 6 of the man's 10 toes. He had lost his left eye, pecked out by sea vultures. The lid of the other eye had all but burnt away, so that he now stared out at the world with a cold, unblinking intensity. But vision was not the worst of his losses. The patient's manhood had been reduced to little more than a charred stump of shiny, livid scar tissue. When, or more likely if, he ever rose from his sick bed, he would have to squat like a woman to urinate. If he wished to satisfy a lover, the only means available to him would be his mouth, but the chances of anyone being willing to let this particular Moor anywhere near her body, even if being paid to do so, were very remote indeed. It could only be by the will of God that the man had survived. The doctor sighed to himself and shook his head as he regarded the devastation revealed when the bandages were unwound. No, such an atrocity could not possibly be the work of Allah, the Almighty and most merciful. This must be the handiwork of Shaitan, the devil himself, and the monster before him was surely no better than a fiend in human form. It would be the matter of a moment for the doctor to snuff out this satanic being that had once been a man, and by so doing prevent the horrors that it would surely inflict if left free to roam the world. His medicine contained a sweet, syrupy tincture that would dull the pain by which the man was plainly racked, before sending him to sleep, and then, with the softness of a woman's touch, stopping his heart forever. But the Maharaja Sadiq Khan Jahan himself had sent word from Ethiopia commanding that this man, of all men, should be taken to the Maharaja's personal residence in Zanzibar and there be treated with particular care. It was surely, Jahan had observed.